MEDDICC by Andy White is a book about complex sales and about understanding what is happening in the complex sale. So when you look at the book cover, you can see MEDDICC as abbreviation, and I'll go through what each of the letters means in a second. And the subtitle is The Ultimate Guide to Staying One Step Ahead in the Complex Sale. So what happens in the complex sale? What is a complex sale? Complex sale is a sale that has usually high dollar amount. I'm thinking of my last job when I was selling scientific instrumentation. I'm thinking of two sales, one I won, one I lost. One was $500,000, another one was $750,000. But what's more importantly than the dollar amount is the amount of work that's being put on the seller's end and on the buyer's end. There's lots of interactions going on the buyer's end. There's lots of interactions happening on the seller's end, lots of work being put into that sales on the seller's end. And if you don't have a qualification structure like MEDDICC, you're pretty much going blind and putting all that work as a seller in the deal that's likely not gonna go ahead if you don't understand what's happening with it. So let's look at the individual letters here. And individual letters, what they mean is metrics, M for metrics, E for economic buyer, D for decision criteria, another D is for decision process, P, sometimes it's MEDDICC, by the way, it's for paper process, I for implicating the pain, C for champion, another C for competition, and there is also risks, so that's another version of MEDDICC. Couple of things on that list are more important than others in my opinion. And by the way, if you want a good analogy, the way I'm thinking of MEDDICC and the way I'm thinking of those two sales that I mentioned, one I won, one I lost, I imagine like a big dark cathedral, and me walking through that cathedral with a tiny flashlight trying to understand what's going on in that cathedral. And MEDDICC and all those individual qualification points of MEDDICC are like lights, like light bulbs that I can light in that corner of the cathedral, in that corner of the cathedral, in that corner of the cathedral, until entire cathedral is illuminated and I understand what is happening there, what's happening in that territory, in that building, and what's going on. So, by the way, me being a very logical person, I used to think that MEDDICC is kind of a linear thing, whereas MEDDICC is a set of check boxes and some of them are more important than the others. And one of the more important ones is implicating the pain. So in order for a sale to happen, the first thing that needs to happen is that your prospect, they need to have a pain that you're solving. If they don't clearly understand why they need your product, if they're not 100% aware of the problem that your product solves, then the sale is not gonna go ahead. It's just gonna die. So the first thing that needs to happen for a sale to take place is both the seller and the buyer have to be 100% aware of what problem they are solving with a product or service. And because MEDDICC is a qualification system, if you turn on that light in the cathedral, in that corner of cathedral, that eye light, the implicate the pain light, and you see that the pain is not clear to the buyer, or maybe we're not solving any major problems with our product or service, we have to take immediate action, and that action has to be either go to the buyer and discuss the pain until that pain comes to the surface, or we need to back off from the sale and say this sale is not going to happen. We need to be willing to back off because this sale is not qualified. So that's, I think, for me, that's the cornerstone of any sale. The customer needs to have a pain. Now, second thing, and by the way, implicating the pain doesn't apply only to the big sales, it also applies to the small sales as well. Now, what needs to happen in a major sale is you need to have a champion you need to have a champion. Who is a champion? Champion is the person on the customer side. Champion is the person who really wants to buy your solution. And what they are doing is they are working with you together and they are selling your solution internally to their team. Now, this is crucial in a major sale because you are an outsider for that organization and you don't have contact with people in that organization, and even more than that, you don't have relationship with them and you're not there all the time. So you need to have someone on the buyer's end who is 100% bought into your solution, who is working proactively with you to buy this solution, who is willing to put their career on the line in order to gain benefits that come from getting your solution implemented on the buyer's end. Now, again, if you turn on the other light, the champion light in the cathedral, and if you see that your champion is not truly a champion, or if they're not actively selling your solution on the buyer's end, that you in fact do not have a champion, you don't have someone who's trying to sell your product internally, then look, you're not gonna have a sale, because most likely there is another champion that's promoting a different solution, or maybe a different project that's competing for the same resources. And without a strong champion promoting your product or service, that other project or competitor product will take over and you're gonna lose the sale. So if you turn on that champion light, if you ask yourself on your sales team meeting or yourself personally, do we have a strong champion? If the answer is no, you have to either work really hard to find and develop that strong champion, find someone on buyer's end who wants to buy a product, or you need to back off from the sale and stop working on it, stop wasting your time. So those are two key components. Now, there are some other ones that are as important that you need to have them in place. An economic buyer is someone on the buyer's end who is making final financial decision. Their goals are usually different from so they're usually higher up in the company hierarchy than the champion. Their goal is different than the champion's goals. They're more interested in the bottom line, how much money we're gonna make or save from this process, from this purchase. But the importance, what Andy White says in MEDDICC, is that you need to have access. You need to try to gain access, and you need to gain the understanding of what economic buyer wants. There are some strategies there. You want to just mention to the economic buyer in some way or another that you're working on this deal. You can introduce your management to the economic buyer. E goes for economic buyer. Decision criteria, another kind of flashlight that illuminates your deal for you. Decision criteria is, first of all, if the customer already has a decision criteria for this product or service, you make sure that you 100% fulfill them, that you're better than your competition. Better yet, you want to work with the economic buyer and the champion to define decision criteria based on the pain that you indicated. So, and if you're really smart, elite seller, as Andy White says, you want those decision criteria be written in such a way that they describe your product or service, so all other competition just falls in the oblivion, because the entire decision criteria for this purchase is centered around what you are offering. What else is here? Paper process, again, something you need to be aware of, because at the end of the sale you want to fill out all the paperwork and the legal team can kick in, and that can delay your sale. Competition, how to deal with the competition, decision criteria, decision process. So those are all equally as important points that you need to eliminate in a complex sale in order for it to take place. Now, let me tell you an anecdote, a little story of what happened with those two sales and what happened in the company that I was working on. So, two sales, one is 500K, we win it, another is 750K, we'll lose it. And back then, 4 years ago, when I was working on those two sales, I was a person without clear qualification criteria, walking with a little flashlight in the cathedral, not understanding what's happening at all. But looking back from the perspective of MEDDICC, I can clearly see that in the deal that we won, we had insanely strong champion. The champion wanted us our solution and nothing else. The champion got the funding from economic buyer. The champion spent kind of probably years to get that funding for that $500,000 instrument. She worked with our application specialist. So she was so fully involved in buying that instrument. And my job there, because I was at the final, I joined the company when that sale was being finalized. My job was just to make sure that people talk with each other, that I book meetings, that paperwork is being processed. But the champion was in place, the champion was insanely strong. Now, in the sale that we lost, looking back, the champion was competitor's champion. We were dealing with a person who was actively promoting competitor product, and we considered them our champion. We were trying to sell through that person. Now imagine what is the likelihood of you selling your solution if the person you're selling through, your champion, is actually your competitor's champion? They're like zero, because people in organization, they do not care whether it's one thing or another. They just care that there is someone inside of their team who is passionate about what they're buying. And why? So this book is called, if you look at the title, so cover, so it doesn't say here, but look, MEDDICC is qualification system. So you want to tick all of those boxes to decide whether to go ahead or back off from the deal. And look, if you're desperate, if you don't know how to sell, you jump on every opportunity. You think this is still an opportunity. That's not true. That's actually a road to peril, because what was happening in our company, we were jumping on every opportunity and we were going after sales that we could not win in principle. We didn't know who the champion was. We didn't know decision criteria. We were joining in the last stages of RFP process. We were just a third wheel in the customer's buying decision. But as a result of us chasing these deals, our resources were stretched beyond limit. The application team that was helping me with the sales, they were flying to different cities day and night, staying in the hotels, burned out completely. I was burned out. We didn't have time to be creative. We didn't have time to give attention to the deals that we could win. We didn't have time to find new opportunities because we are always stretching, chasing the deals that were not qualified. So, in summary, if your deal is just, if in your sales you're just dealing with one person or two people, maybe you do not need MEDDICC. But if you're dealing with sales where there is a team, there are things happening on the customer's end, there are things that happening on your end, you need to go through MEDDICC, and you need to start implementing this. And even more importantly, you need to sell the idea of MEDDICC to your management and to top management, top sales management in the company, because it's really hard to implement it just as a solo salesperson. You need to have everyone on board with it.